Now, an in-depth look at the news and information shaping our community. This is Moose Talks with your host, Doug Craig, on Moose FM.
Good morning and welcome to the program. A little later on, we're hoping to be chatting with local professional bull rider Jake Gardner. We're going to talk about his career as a bull rider so far, and then, of course, we're going to look ahead to what he's looking forward to next season. But first, it's been a year of change, I should say another year of change and pivoting for teachers and students in School District 60 as the health orders have been put in place to combat the spread of COVID-19 have been eased and then put back into place again in some fashion. So to talk about the year that was and to look forward to next year, we're joined now by School District 60 Superintendent Stephen Petrucci. Stephen, welcome back to Moose Talks. Nice to see you.
You as well, Dub. Thanks for having me back.
You're very welcome. Well, as I said, we've seen another year of the pandemic, and staff and students have had to pivot several times to sort of make things work, especially at the start. Last year seemed to be a lot more of that. This year, it seemed like we had a better handle of things. So I wanted to get start with your opinion on how you think everyone in and around the school district has handled all of these changes and sort of having to deal with these orders that have come down.
Yeah, no, thanks for the question, Dub. You know, in any given sort of normal year, there can already be some change fatigue, depending on the number of different programs and initiatives that come through from the district or the Ministry of Education. But certainly with the pandemic here, I can definitely say that there's change fatigue when it comes to the regulations and the orders that change. As you pointed out, we were really looking forward to more of a stable year in terms of what those parameters and guidelines would be. But in many respects, we have been able to come back to a lot of programming and opportunities that we did have to forego last year, like, for example, our extracurricular sports, both at the elementary and secondary level, have resumed. And in fact, our senior girls volleyball team from North Peace just went down to the provincials there. So that was very exciting. And, you know, while we've not been able to have as many, spectators and people involved in that, we've been able to live stream and follow them probably in ways that we were not able to in the past. So there's always some silver linings out there. But, to your question, it's been a roller coaster, and that can take a toll on people.
Absolutely. You talked about change fatigue. Have you seen sort of, I guess my question then is what does that look like in school? Is it that you kind of have to keep reminding people to wear masks because they're tired of it? Is it mental health issues? Is it kind of the gamut of things?
Well, yeah, I think the short answer is yes. I mean, it manifests itself in all kinds of ways. I think people just get worn down, both from in terms of the changes we talk about at work, but also just in our community and, to a certain degree in the media as well. And I think all of us have a certain fatigue, regardless of our occupation, in terms of this current pandemic. However, the mood and the environment in the schools has been very positive, thanks to the fact that mostly our staff are getting through this. And, in terms of the perspective from the students, they are experiencing a happy, joyful, and a positive learning environment. And that's, again, thanks to our staff.
How difficult would you say it's been to convey the changing orders and ensure that everybody is following them, whether it's staff or students?
Yeah, I mean, I think like everyone else, we don't make these rules up, and it is appropriate to remind people of that. We take our regulations from the PHO, the Ministry of Education, WorkSafe BC, and to a certain degree, there has been some consistency in the K-12 guidelines. So there's actually a differentiation, Dub, between the public health orders and the K-12 guidelines under the PHO. So we've been able to I think maintain some stability there, and just sort of move forward with our programming. Where it gets complicated is where the public orders change, and then sometimes when we want to host more public events, whether that be Christmas concerts or major tournaments, then it does affect our ability to have spectators and things like that. But overall, the delivery of our education programming has gone on seamlessly. We have faced shortages as we have in the past, even pre-COVID, but it's been exacerbated in terms of having enough people on our supply lists for TTOCs, we call them, replacement teachers, as well as replacement support staff. And that continues to be a challenge. And that itself has quite a strain on the system in terms of people having to cover, trying to find appropriate replacements. Our principals and vice principals are stepping into the classroom more than they ever have before to cover. And obviously that can lead to fatigue as well. But I mean, I'll circle back to the idea and the concept that, I've been in the schools all fall, and it's a very positive environment. And we still have lots of really neat initiatives that have gone ahead this year that I can mention as well.
Absolutely. I apologize. I didn't mean to interrupt you there, but I wanted to ask about the supply teachers because that's interesting to me. Is it a funding issue, or is it that there's just not a pool big enough to have enough people able to step in who can do the job when needed, kind of at short notice, which I imagine is basically the job description of a supply teacher? There's just not enough.
Yeah, so it's not a funding issue. It's just the length of our replacement teacher list, or our support teacher list, our EAs list, for example. We would like them to be a lot longer. And also, what exacerbates this is the with the new order, which makes total sense. If people are not, if they're not sure if they're feeling well, or if they have not passed that daily health check, then they're not to come to work. And I think that's what's helped maintain, safer environments at school, along with our things like our enhanced ventilation systems and traffic control and the daily health checks, the washing of hands. But all of that means that we've had, more staff, and rightly so, staying home when they're not well. And that has compounded the problem of finding enough replacement teachers and support staff. But we're hanging in there, and but if there was ever a time to consider the teaching or support staff profession, please do so.
I want to ask you if there's been different challenges based upon the age level of the kids. Is it have there been different things that have arisen that you and staff and students have found challenging, whether they're in elementary school or secondary school, junior high, whatever it happens to be? Have you seen that, or has it kind of been pretty consistent that you see kind of the same things popping up when they do?
Off the top of my head, I don't think there's any sort of more serious distinctions between elementary and secondary, for example. They always have differences in terms of how their year rolls out and what their challenges and successes are, but nothing sort of, pandemic specific to that. We have had some attendance issues go up and down, but overall that has stabilized as well. I think the high school was really relieved this year to go back to a regular scheduling system, for example, and not have the cohorts and a quarter system like we did last year. If you remember, I think we talked about that the last time. And so a lot of things did return to their sort of normal programming. And I know that's gone over very well at the high school, and students and families are really happy about that. Similar with the return of extracurricular. And we've also now had our third-party user groups being able to use our gyms. And so there's a signed agreement that they put forward. And we've now had those groups come back to our schools. So in many respects, it's been positive that way.
I have to ask one more on this topic here. Given that it seems like we're in a fifth wave now, cases are going up in BC in general, and this new Omicron variant, what are you most concerned about going forward in terms of COVID preparedness for coming down from the Ministry of Education and in the school district? Do you have a lot, or do you think it's just you're kind of ready for just about anything at this point?
Well, like yourself, Dub, or any organization, we'll always, do the best we can with the people and the resources we have. I think, well, I'll rephrase that. What I'm most proud of is the fact that we've been able to maintain in-person instruction in our district and throughout British Columbia. That's really not the case. And I think I've mentioned this before. I mean, across the world, our jurisdiction has maintained in-school instruction
Hmm.
more than anywhere else in the world. And I think not only is that important for our students, but it's also important for our community in terms of, knowing that there's that certainty. Uh, Parents can still be at work. The community can continue the way it needs to. So I'm actually really proud of that. And at the same time, I guess it's also a concern in that that's our focus. We want to make sure we continue in-person instruction, and we're going to do everything we can to make sure that those shortages are covered and we can make it through to the end of the year.
Okay. I wanted to talk for a moment about graduation ceremonies. I don't know if you can speak to this much yet because it is still several months away. But of course, the last two kind of had to change things up. The first one in 2019 was very different given the pandemic. And then last year, of course, you had more time to plan for it, but there were some changes, again, given the public health orders and whatnot. I'm just curious if you know or can speak to kind of the process of planning grad and how's that going. Is there sort of two plans going on? For one, if we're able to maybe have pretty well a regular graduation, and then another one if we have to make changes given public health orders depending on what kind of thing is happening. Can you speak to that?
Yeah. Well, yeah, no, I think the crystal ball was always hard,
Hmm.
and it's cloudier than ever, Dub. So I can't really try and predict what'll happen there. I think the default right now is to continue to plan for an alternate type of
Yeah.
ceremony and festivities. There was some great feedback last year in terms of how the high school really made it a special occasion for the students and the families, and how they were able to come in small groups, still cross the stage and receive their diplomas and have some great memories and souvenirs from that as well. So right now, the default is towards a similar type of ceremony, but really what I'll say is that the high school itself will come out with that
Hmm.
information, and really want to thank your listeners for their patience and families for their patience as we sort of adjust, like everyone else, to any of the changes, and I want to be optimistic and say that we'll be back to a regular ceremony, but just can't say at this point.
Hmm. All right, I want to talk a bit about some donations the school district has received
Yeah.
recently. I mean, especially this one, $40,000 from Canadian Natural Resources Limited for the breakfast program. Um, these donations, have they been surprising? It seems like we've talked about these a few times in the kind of this past year that there's been these big donations. Is it surprising to you that it's happened, or is this kind of something that happens every year for the school district?
Well, I mean, it's always a pleasant surprise and something we're extremely grateful for. The reality is that our local businesses and industry have supported us every year, and they've definitely stepped up even more this year. But quite frankly, this has been going on ever since I've been in the district, over the last number of years. And you mentioned the 40,000, I think, by CNRL, for our meals and breakfast programs, our local automotive dealerships who have stepped up with a donation of over $20,000. And it just continues. Our firefighters have come by here twice over this year with some different fundraising initiatives. And the other thing that happened right at the beginning of the year, Dub, is that North River Midstream, through the support of the District of Taylor, donated $20,000 to our Seamless Day kindergarten program in
Hmm.
Taylor. And I mean, that was a phenomenal donation that actually helped us uh, implement that program. It would not have been possible otherwise. And what it meant was that in our kindergarten class out in Taylor, we have enhanced instructional and supervision abilities for that group of kids, both before and after school and during the day. And so we're really appreciative of that and all kinds of other community support.
Hmm.
I can think of, for years I organized the district Christmas party, and we'd have businesses donate prizes. We would have, for example, Marlin Travel donating a return trip to Vancouver, and the list goes on. And it's why I'm actually kind of excited that Cheryl Montgomery, through the Chamber of Commerce, I think you've seen there that they've got this initiative now around Shop Local, and we're looking forward to supporting that in any way we can.
Excellent. You got one last minute, so I just wanted to turn things around again on this. You guys have received lots of donations, but also in the news a lot recently is how students in School District 60 and their classes have been stepping up to to do donation drives and then donate the money to lots of great local charities around the kind of the district and whatnot. I wonder if you could speak to that for a moment, just how you feel about when you see that happening in the news and hear about these kids making an effort to make their community a better place.
Well, thanks for mentioning that. And not only is it so great to see, but it's actually a really important educational component for our students. Not only to go through that activity, but to really understand that that's about what it means to be socially responsible and to be part of a community. And, we've seen so many schools each year donate to, Women's Resource Center, our Hamper Fund, the Salvation Army, and you're absolutely right. And so not only are those donations fantastic, but the educational process involved is just as important to us as well.
Excellent. Well, Stephen, I really appreciate you taking a few minutes of your time to chat with us. Thank you so much.
You betcha. Have a great holiday, Dub.
Yes, and happy holidays to you and yours. The program, I'm Dub Craig. Well, we've had a couple times where we almost had this next guest on the show, and then something happened. Both my fault and not his fault, but because of something that happened on his end that we had to change up. But we finally made it work this time after even some technical difficulties. So I'm very glad to be welcoming PBR rider Jake Gardner to Moose Talks today. Jake, how's it going?
Oh, pretty good. How about yourself?
I'm doing very well, thanks. Thanks for joining us for this and making it work, making your technology work today.
Oh, for sure. No, it's good. Yeah.
So I want to start with your injury. I guess you got hurt kind of at basically the last moment of the season. You hurt your bicep or something. How are you healing up?
It's going pretty good. Yeah, I tore my bicep muscle off. It was the last bowl of the season. So,
Yeah.
I mean, it could have been a lot worse. It could have been middle of season. But, yeah, I waited around for a week, went and got surgery on it. And then I didn't do much for, I don't know, about 2 weeks and started to feel better. And the doctor's got me in a brace right now. So I allowed to move it a little bit and feels like it's healing fast. So I go see him on the 4th of January and I think start physio. So.
Oh, okay.
I'm thinking I'm going to be back beginning of March, so
Okay.
could be a lot worse. It's been good.
Yeah, so that won't interrupt the season, I guess, too much. You might miss a couple events kind of in the early going, but back by early spring, I guess, eh?
Yeah, no, it shouldn't affect it too much. There's a few up here I'll miss. I'll miss some down in the States too that I was going to go to, but just have to play catch up, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to kind of talk about your career in professional bull riding because, of course, we've been following it pretty closely here at energeticcity.ca. We always talk about what you happen to be up to. So I want to start at the beginning, though. How did you get into this? How does this end up in your life that you decide to do this later on? Did you start kind of doing kind of rodeo events as a kid?
Yeah. My dad, he's a rancher and farmer, and when he was younger, he used to ride saddle bronc horses and buck and bulls. So he got me and my sisters involved at a young age. He'd take us to all the rodeos around here, and yeah, it's kind of just got started doing that and progressed over the years.
You obviously progressed to a point where you were starting to or thought you could make some money at this as kind of a career. So I have to ask you about that. Like, how did you get to the point where you knew or you thought you could turn pro and make a living at this, or some of a living at it anyway?
I don't know. I think growing up over the years, I've always watched PBR on TV and seen what those guys can do. You know, they're making really good money and just living life the way they want to. So I was kind of always attracted to that lifestyle, and then yeah, when I turned 18, kind of got my feet wet at a few events and stuff, and was a bit successful, and just kind of been doing it ever since, and it's been pretty good.
Very cool. Would you say it's something you've always kind of been naturally good at, or did you have to put in a lot of work to kind of get where you are, or maybe both?
I think from like riding horses at a young age and stuff, it helped, but I've had to put in a lot of work myself to get good at it. I feel like there's a lot of guys that are talented. It comes naturally and they don't seem to do much, but it always seems like the more work I put in, the better I do. So it's been good.
Now, it's like this bull riding's like a lot of sports. It can take a heck of a toll on your body. As we mentioned at the start, you tore a bicep kind of at the end of last season. How do you approach this occupation knowing that, I mean, they're rare, but nonetheless, I mean, you could have a ride and it could end up being your last if something horrible happens. Does that change your approach at all, or is that just something you don't really try to think about too much?
I just try not to think about it. I mean, I just think if I'm going to ride the bull and get off good and go to the next one, we try and keep those negative thoughts aside. But I mean, it's definitely part of the sport, and it could happen. But I mean, just push through it if that does happen.
I also want to talk about, I think it was Grand Prairie, where you kind of had your best showing of the season, and I believe of your career so far. Tell me a bit about that weekend. Was there just something special about that weekend that you just felt really good? Were kind of the planets aligned? What kind of happened for you?
I don't know. I was in the States all summer, going pretty hard, so I kind of got up there, and it's pretty close to home, so it was it's good and comfortable to be around family and friends. And seems like Grand Prairie, I seem to have some luck there when I go there. I've happened to win the pro rodeo there twice, so I like riding there. I'm comfortable, and yeah, it was just good. I felt good and drew some good bulls and did my job, so it worked out.
Would you say that was kind of the highlight of your the last season for you? Was the Grand Prairie competition?
Yeah, I mean, that's always been a goal to win one of those events. They're pretty hard to win, but I don't know. I was down in the States and I won a pretty big bull riding event down there in Greeley, Colorado. That kind of kicked off my season down there and enabled me to go for the summer. And so that was pretty important to me too. But to be able to kind of finish off the end of the season with a win like that, it was really good. So.
Awesome. Well, I wanted to ask you about how you're feeling about this upcoming season. Then I know, as you said, you're still kind of going through the recovery process of your bicep. Given how last season went, you think you're just gonna have an excellent one coming up, and how are you feeling about it?
Oh, I'm feeling pretty good. Once I can start doing some physio with this arm, I'm going to start getting in the gym and getting back in shape. It's kind of taking it easy right now, but yeah, I've got 2 months to get prepared, and yeah, when I'm ready to go, I know I'll be ready. Probably get on some practice bulls and hopefully start off, where I left off, and get after it next season, and hopefully big things happen.
Absolutely. I think I looked it up, and I apologize if I was wrong about this. I think I saw you were 88th. You were kind of ranked 88th in professional bull riding, or somewhere around there. Do you have a goal kind of in your mind to get higher? Like, do you say, I want to get to this level this year? Is that kind of how you approach making goals for the season?
Yeah. So that's the whole world in Canada.
Yeah.
I ended up like 6th, I think. So it was kind of nice. I didn't get to go to a whole lot of events up here. It was nice to finish there. But yeah, next year I'd like to finish higher in the world standings. I'm going to go more the Professional Rodeo Cowboys Association down there and hopefully make the NFR. And that's the National Finals Rodeo. That's in Las Vegas. It's in December, beginning of December. They take the top 15 in the world. So hopefully I can make a push for that and end up there at the end of the year. That's kind of the plan.
Excellent. Well, Jake, I'm really grateful that you took a few minutes to chat with us today, and happy holidays to you and yours, eh?
Yeah, appreciate it. You guys as well.
Thank you.